What's up, guys? How's everyone doing? Welcome back to another video. Today just going to be kind of having a chill talking and driving video. Just wanted to let you guys know the big elephant in the room. Figured we should go ahead and discuss it, and that is what happened to the Passat. So the last time you guys saw or heard anything of the Passat, I had rented a U-Haul pickup and a trailer. I was taking it to a shop to get worked on, and I needed to get the clutch for the cooling fan replaced. And yeah, after that it was just kind of dark. You guys didn't hear anything, I didn't tell you guys anything, you guys haven't seen it, so I figured I would just go ahead and fill you guys in, let you guys know everything. And I think it's a pretty good story, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so I'll go ahead and start this story where we left off with the Passat. I rented the truck and trailer, I dropped it off at the shop. I don't remember the name of the shop off the top of my head, but I'll put it here on the screen. And like I said, I just needed the clutch for the cooling fan to be replaced. Nothing else was wrong with the car. It ran perfectly fine. Everything was good on the car, except the clutch for the cooling fan. That's the only thing that needed to be fixed. And I'm going to emphasize that. The car worked perfectly. The only thing was the clutch for the cooling fan. So I take it there, they quote me for it $700 to get that part replaced. I didn't really have another choice. I had already rented the U-Haul, I had already got it there, and for those of you who don't know, U-Haul actually charges you for every mile that you drive using their equipment. So I'd already put a lot of miles on the U-Haul, and I wasn't about to drive even more. So I figured, you know what, whatever, I left it there. And they said it was going to take about like a week to fix, and they were accurate. It was about a week. About a week later, I got a call from them. They said, hey, your car's ready, you can come pick it up whenever you're ready. Alright, cool. The next day, I had actually gone there, went to pick it up, started it up. There was no coolant in there. I know that because on the Volkswagens, on the little screen on the instrument cluster, it told me, stop, turn off engine, low coolant. So I, popped the hood, I checked it, and the reservoir, bone dry. I mean that, it was seriously dry. There was no coolant in there at all. So I thought that was kind of weird, but for them to get to it, I know they had to disconnect a lot of the hoses and everything. I figured the coolant just, poured out. They just didn't replace it. Whatever, I was gonna go in there and bring it up to them, but they were busy. The dude that I talked to, he was in the shop, he was working on other cars. They were talking to all the other guys trying to get all their stuff sorted out. So I was like, whatever, it's not worth the trouble. I just put some coolant in there, thought I was good to go. Now I live about 75 miles away from where that shop is, so that was a nice little drive. On the way back home, I'd say about 20 miles in, the light came back on. Stop, turn off engine, low coolant. I thought that maybe there was just no coolant in the engine itself, so maybe it just drained it all from the reservoir. So I stopped, I bought more coolant, I put it in there, and I thought that'd be the end of it, because I was like, okay, like I said, maybe it pulled it off from the reservoir, now the reservoir's full, should be okay. Nope, about, I'd say another 20 miles in, same thing. Stop, turn off engine. I was like, okay, something's got to be wrong, because I've already filled it up twice. So something's got to be, something's got to be going on. Well, when I parked it over there at our house, I noticed that it was leaking coolant. Now, it was not leaking coolant before. And so I had called them up. I was like, hey, my name is Jeremy. I have my 2004 Volkswagen Passat in there. You guys replaced the clutch for the cooling fan. I got a little problem. Now it's leaking coolant. He's like, okay, well, was it leaking coolant before? I was like, no, it was not leaking coolant before. This is something that happened as soon as I got it back from you guys. And I told him how it didn't have coolant in it when I picked it up. He says, all right, not a problem, bring it back in. We'll take a look at it. If it's something that we did, we'll just fix it for free, yada, yada. So I was like, all right. So it was the next day after that, I drove it back over there. And like I said, about every 15, 20 miles, I had to stop and put more coolant in there because it was leaking. So I get there, drop it off, and then about an hour or two later, he calls me. He told me to come back to the shop. So I went back over there. He told me, and this is where it gets interesting, he told me, your water pump needs to be replaced. I was like, why does it need to be replaced? I told him, I said, why should it need to be replaced? It wasn't leaking coolant before before I gave it to you guys? He goes, I don't know, but there's coolant dried all over the bottom of the engine. This water pump has been leaking for a while. I'm like, no, it hasn't. I told him that. I said, well, it was not leaking before I took it to you guys. And this guy says, well, I don't know what to tell you. Must just be a coincidence. How is that a coincidence? It was not leaking before I took it to you guys. And then you said, well, there's a bunch of dried on coolant on the bottom of the engine. It's got to be leaking for a while, when it wasn't. They did something to it that caused it to start leaking. That's like a classic mechanic scam. They do something, they get you to come back, and then he wanted to quote me like another $875 to fix that. I got curious, I googled the water pump. The water pump was only like $120. So that's one hell, that's one hell of an upsell. Well, that's a lot of labor. But I was like, yeah, I'm not trusting these people. My plan was to take it to a couple other mechanic shops. I was gonna get them to look at it to see if it really was the water pump, or if maybe they just didn't, you know, secure a hose correctly, and maybe it was just leaking and they were just trying to get some extra money from me. But that unfortunately never happened. So I did have to work early the next morning, so I didn't have time to take it to the shop or whatever. I left for work. I think I left around 5:45 in the morning, and my work is about 54 miles away from my home. So again, that's a nice little drive. I got about, I would probably say 40 miles in, and all of a sudden my light came on. It said low oil pressure, turn off engine, emergency. I was like, whoa, what happened? So I pulled over, I pulled into this truck stop because I was right next to a truck stop. And I was thinking low oil pressure. I was like, that's weird. Now, I didn't mention this in the beginning of the video. I had performed a fresh oil change about 2 days before I had taken my car into the shop. Like 2 days beforehand, I did a fresh oil change. I used the Pennzoil high mileage, full synthetic that's made specifically for that car. So I know the oil was good in it. So I was thinking, I was like, what could this be? I pull into the truck stop, I park, I pop my hood. Of course, there's smoke everywhere. The engine was smoking. It had coolant, so I was like, that's weird. I pull up my dipstick.
That's what she said. Or he said.
There was no oil in that car. That dipstick was dry. I mean, it was dry as hell. So I was like, man, like, I'm not having this. I was mad, I was pissed. I was gonna call them, but I had to be at work like 10 minutes from that moment, so I didn't have time. I had just poured some more oil in I had bought some more oil at the truck stop. I poured it in there. I thought I would be good to go. I was gonna call them when I got out of work. Well, when I got out of work, I was on my way home, and I'd got maybe about 20 miles in, and then all of a sudden the light came back on, low oil pressure, turn off car, emergency. And before I could even pull over on the side of the road, the car turned itself off, and then black smoke just poured out from under the hood. And at that moment, I knew that it was over. The car was done for. It was smoking for a good maybe 15 minutes after I pulled over. The car was off. I couldn't even turn it over at that point. And yeah, from there, it just sat there for a few days. And then I was left with a few choices. I could either, one, I could have paid for a tow truck to tow it to my house. Well, what good would that have done me? The car wouldn't work after that. It wouldn't turn over. It wouldn't do anything. The car was done for. I could have left it there for a few days, but the city probably would have impounded it, and I would have to pay to get it back. And then even then, like I said, it still wouldn't work. I could have towed it to a shop, but then I would have had to pay that high tow bill, plus have to pay for the work that they did on it. But with all the problems that was going on, that I know that shop did. I know that shop did something to the car. You know, I don't think it would have been worth it in the long run. So I made a real snap decision. They have those websites where they come out and they just buy your car on the spot. They don't pay you much for it. I sold the Passat to, it was called Copart. They like auction off these cars. They only paid me $140 for it. That is not a lot. I paid more for the radio in it. But I was left with either sell it for $140, I could make a little bit of money off of it, or I could have the city impound it, or I could have it towed somewhere and be left with a huge bill that I'd still have to pay. So like I said, I made a real snap decision. They didn't pay me much. I was actually pretty depressed about how much they paid. And yeah, that's what happened to it. And I think that the car is actually still for sale. If you go on their website, it's like copart.com. You can search it up. They just do like auto auctions and stuff. I had checked a couple weeks ago and it was on there. They only wanted like $300 for it. Granted, the car is in really good condition. You know, there's not dents or scratches or anything. You know, a lot of the cars on there have been involved in accidents, so it's missing like the whole front end and stuff. So the car's in really good condition. It's just the engine that needs to be worked on. Maybe the water pump really does need to be replaced. I don't know, but that shop did something to it. I'm pretty sure the cylinder heads are cracked. I'm pretty sure those are just gone at this point. But I mean, it was a really good car. I really loved that car a lot. I did a lot to it, and it was really sad what happened to it. I planned on keeping that car for a long time. I planned on doing a lot to it, but you know, that shop did something to it, and I know that. I know it deep in my heart. And I don't know what it was. I heard a lot of good things about that shop, so I don't know. But yeah, they did something to the car. A lot of people that I've talked to, they told me to lawyer up and sue them, but I know that could be expensive, and you know, I'm not prepared for how that could turn out. It is a big setback, you know. Of course, it's really sad, but at the end of the day, I guess it is what it is. Got another car, so that's good. Everything's going good now, so I guess, you know, I can't be tripping on the past. Just gotta leave it behind me and whatnot. But yeah, so that's what happened to the Passat. Just figured I'd finally have a video talking to you guys, let you guys know what happened to it, just in case you guys were curious, because I did a lot of videos fixing up that car. Did a lot to it. Like I said, I became really attached to it, and then just out of nowhere, it was just kind of nothing. Didn't tell you guys anything about it. And I figured, just out of respect and everything, you guys deserve to know what happened to it and whatnot. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, be sure to let me know with a big thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if anything like this has ever happened to you or someone you know. These mechanic shops, sometimes you gotta be careful. You know, they're real sketchy. They're just out to make money. That's all they want sometimes. But yeah, and until my next video, take care and be safe. Peace.
All this jewelry, they gon' notice me. And you know I got that roll on me. I pull it slow with me. Sailor on the ball.